Welcome to Looking Through the Glass.
I'm Sela.
And I'm Jeselle. And,
I don't want to get your foot.
so in the last few recordings, we've been talking about me. Glorious me.
Okay, I'm ready.
And, I've been talking about my story, and giving out, the trauma and the things I've been through. And the last bit I left you guys on was when, right after I had my third rape, and I forced myself to miscarry. Not too long after that, I started seeking to carry on with that story. I was seeking to move away. At that time, you were dating somebody who...
I know.
we to this day, we don't mention name.
Yeah. That was just, ugh. We all have our, I mean, if you don't,
we all have that boyfriend or girlfriend that were like, ugh.
I had a few of those, but just to say it wasn't one of my,
but at that time...
most shining moments.
But at that time, we were in desperate mode.
Yeah.
We hit a point where, I was ending my freshman year in high school. And then, again, the Lord was... I was not me my freshman year, and due to a lot of the things that I faced, I see
you were you, but you were you that was drowning.
Yeah, and so there was the talk of moving to Alaska, and
I was just trying to run,
and I was freaking out because Vegas was all I knew.
Yeah,
but I definitely didn't want to live in that neighborhood anymore. I wanted away from that, and I was like, I don't want to move somewhere where I've never been. And even though I still ended up moving somewhere I've never been. And, so, I talked to family in Oklahoma and, to move out there. And I know that was a really rough thing because we've never been separated, and that was, I remember us having that conversation, and I was begging you, can you just please let me have this? Yeah. And, I know that if I didn't get away, I felt like it would have crumbled our relationship a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because we were doing good. We started doing better, but then I just felt like there was a gap in there. It's just something that wasn't... The glue was falling apart. That's what it felt like.
Well, yeah, I can understand.
And... so I very much wanted to separate myself from the city. I wanted to separate myself from just everything, because everything was being reminded of what was going on, what happened.
Yeah.
And so when I finally did move to Oklahoma, the relief of darkness was there. There was a darkness lifted, but I still... half of me was still in there. I was still halfway in that water, and I knew it, I started dating a really great guy at the time, but I didn't know how to be in a relationship. I was hurt, and I felt like, to me at the time, I felt like he was drowning me too. And so I let a lot of relationships at that time crumble, a lot of friendships, a lot of great people that were in my life. They felt like that were great people in my life. And they were great people at the time in my life. But I felt like I let a lot of those relationships crumble because it was another reminder of what happened to me. And as I lived in Oklahoma, I was still going through it mentally, and I still didn't know how to talk about it. I did tell the person I was living with at the time, what happened. Explain to her, what happened to me, why I made the decision on such a whim. On wanting to move out there. And, and plus I was looking for an option of better education.
Yeah, that's what we had discussed, was an option of better education, because Las Vegas education was just...
No, I didn't, and I was very much tired of the education system out there, so I was, okay, different state, better education, hopefully, better options, And, there was some great things that came with it while living out there, but it didn't feel any different.
Mm-hmm.
I was very much bullied in that school. It was a small town school. It was K through 12, and there was less than 300 students. My graduating class was 15 kids, 5 girls, 10 boys, and it was really hard being new in that school. And some of the people were really friendly, some of the people were welcoming, but things spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
In a small town school.
Yeah,
you don't
even have to tell anybody.
It doesn't even have to be true, and it would spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that kept happening.
I remember going to a small town and that the similar situation.
So as I'm trying to dig myself out of this hole and get out of this darkness, I was being plummeted, and it felt like somebody was pushing me back down into it. It was that fight, that hand on the head just holding me there.
Yeah.
And it kept getting harder and harder. And like I said last time, you don't know how to talk about it. You don't know how to tell somebody, I am drowning in pain. I am drowning in something where I don't know how to deal with it. And we're teenagers. We don't know how to deal with it. We're
not sure what we're feeling.
The emotions are new. How do we deal with it?
Especially when you're dealing with a sexual assault, you don't know how to decompress all of everything that happened and all of the emotions and all of the fucking thoughts that run through your head when you experience those things. And there's so much that is experienced through that.
And I was being told, you're going to church. I personally felt I was being forced to go. I was never a church person. We always, when we did go, it was once in a while, non-denominational church.
I was very, very picky and choosy on when and where.
And
I wouldn't, God tells me when I go to church.
And it was like, we're going to go to church. And it's like, okay. And I tried it out, and it was okay, but I never ever felt welcomed or in a church where I felt like I was at home. Because that's what I feel like when you're supposed to go to a church, is you're supposed to feel at home. It's supposed to be your new home, or feel like home to you.
You should be able to share anything with them in trust.
I didn't know how to open up. I didn't know how to do anything. I'd never been separated from you, and I very much wanted the separation, but it was hard for me to take anyways.
Yeah.
And as I was out there, a lot of things uncovered. I very much was learning how to just shove everything to the side. It didn't matter how I felt. And a lot of times I felt like I was never doing anything right when I was out there. I couldn't eat this or couldn't eat much of that. And I lost a lot of weight when I was out there. And it was honestly due to depression. I was far from, I didn't know what happiness was while I was out there. Okay, maybe I am going to cry this one. It's okay.
Yeah, it has a way of doing it.
It does, and it's okay. It's fine. I didn't know what happiness was when I was out there.
We need tissue boxes for the baby shower anyways.
And while I was out, I did experience glimpses of happiness. The family member that I was staying with, her significant other, he welcomed me in with open arms. He helped me experience a father figure that I never, experienced before. A side of a father that I never, had gotten.
Yeah, you talk about it quite often. If this ever comes across, I want you to know she talks about you quite often in a very high manner.
And I became very grateful of that. And, he very much would stand up for me and all that, And then I started, I went through surgery for my knee, and that's when a different, I don't know, it was just something was different. I was like, I want to go to church again. Well, because I wanted to go to church, I was starting to make friends at the church. And it very much felt like, well, that's not why you're at church type thing. Or it felt that now that I was making a connection somewhere, it felt that it was not deemed right by, it was, and, this is just my personal feelings. This is just what I went through, how I've seen it, and that
this
was
is just your side of the story.
My side of the story. There's no
there's no right or wrong in here.
No. And I very much, and like we said, I was in a very dark place and was starting to have friends where in a place where I've never been, where I never grew up, and actually starting to create friends. I was starting to come out. And, I would be on Wednesday night worshiping at church, and I just start bawling. And, and I started actually feeling the music. Feeling God through the music.
Feeling the Holy Spirit.
And I would have to walk out to go to the bathroom to cry because I would hit that wailing moment.
I did. I went through the same thing.
And and these people, these other teenagers would come in and comfort me and make me feel, they're like, it's okay. You're okay. It's okay to feel this way. They were I didn't know that people could be like that. Teenagers, because I'm used to the
fakeness.
Exactly. And there was fakeness at the school, but these kids were more real to me.
Yeah.
We'll have lunch or dinner after, we'll go to a restaurant after church and eat dinner. They would make sure to invite me, and,
they were more genuine.
So much more genuine. And, and then...
At least it appeared that way to you, or at least that's what
I needed.
Yeah.
At the time.
At the time is what you needed, yeah.
And they were offering it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of felt like that got ripped away from me. Because, I was a straight A student. I worked my ass off. I was a straight A student, and, honestly, I look back and the classes were easy. But then it was like, if I started, like, feeling like, sorry, can't find my words, find the words.
It's alright, breathe.
When that got taken away from me, it very much made me feel like I needed to retaliate. My phone was my phone was my source of happiness, my source of relief of that real world. And I had that taken from me at a certain time. Couldn't have it. And I very much I felt like I was being treated like a child. Like I was a 13, 14-year-old child when I was 17 years old. 16 years old.
Yeah. I
take that was 16. And I was like, I'm 16 years old, I'm a straight A student, and I would wake up on time. I would stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning, but that's on me,
Well, I always let you were always mature enough to be able to handle yourself, so I let you manage yourself in those areas.
And when
I teach you guys very young to manage yourselves in those areas.
But when that got taken from me, it was like, okay. And then my invasion of privacy was, I'm 16 years old. There's no such, like, they say there's no such thing as an invasion of privacy, but there still is a sense of privacy that I deserved. And, in my opinion, and, going through my phone, that, yes, in a way, it needed to be done. I'm not gonna lie. I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing. But I was very upset with, how I was being treated in some ways. And being 16 years old, we all feel that way. We all have issues on how we're treated at 16. And, and then that being held in my face going, well, look what we're doing for you and this and that. And then there was and this is not, I'm going to just say this is not to hurt anybody, but when I was told, I was threatened to be kicked out, that left me going, I have nowhere to go. I don't have friends. I don't have family out here. Where am I supposed to go? And, and that happened quite a couple times. And then I started finding somebody to find comfort in. And then they, offered to come and visit and see me. And I told her about him, and it was, he's too old for you. We're only 2 years apart. And it was, he's too old for you. Or, not right now. It was always, I felt like there was always an excuse at some point. And, you know, maybe, and I don't know, maybe there was a reason. But I invited him over, and I will say I hated myself for inviting him over and, you know, running off with him. And, because I wanted away from it all. I wanted away from everything. I couldn't find a sense of happiness. I felt like there was no place for happiness. And, you know, and I ran off with him, and it was just for 5 minutes, 10 minutes down the road. And, you know, she came looking for me, and I'm glad that she did, you know. But I sat there, and it was just, there was no thought process of other than going, what else is there for me? And, you know, the sneaking guys, I snuck 2 guys into the house. It was him and one other guy. And I absolutely felt horrible because the disappointment that was brought into it.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. You know, there was rightful disappointment in it.
Yeah.
And I absolutely destroyed myself even more.
Yeah.
Because I'm going, I can't do anything right.
Yeah.
This happened, you know, what the hell is wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this isn't, is this who I am? Is this just who I'm meant to be? And, you know, I apologized to them, and, you know, he's just like, don't do it again. And absolutely will not. That disappointment destroyed me.
Yeah. Especially since you had gotten close.
100%.
You know, it meant something to you. That disappointment meant something to you.
Oh, yeah. It 100% did. You know, and after that, I didn't know how to... I got through the time, but it felt like I stood in place and each day went by. It felt like everything was just passing by, that I wasn't really mentally there.
Yeah. Going through the motions, but just kind of checking out.
And, you know, it got really embarrassing for me at the time, because here I am in a small town, and small towns, word spread like wildfire, and his whole family knew, the whole neighborhood knew, the entire school knew of what happened, and then the whole church knew, and
now you're being looked out to be a certain way.
I got looked at like I was a slut.
Yeah.
I got looked at like I was a slut. And, you know, even though a lot of it wasn't even for that reason, it was just I needed a friend. You know. And it was absolutely horrifying. Couldn't be by myself. I had to be babysat at 16 years old because they didn't have that trust in me. And I understand that, but at the same time,
going from being someone who was responsible for somebody else a lot of the time to being treated like that is very difficult.
It was extremely difficult.
Because you were watching your sister while I was at work. You were making dinner. You were, you know.
There wasn't a whole lot of freedom in the first place. And, you know, I don't know what for. I don't know why. And, you know, and maybe that was why I retaliated so hard in the way that I did, other than just the mental depression. But I very much knew that when I had gotten to the point where it was I had to be watched, and everybody knew what happened, and I was basically the town whore at that point.
Yeah.
And then it came in between friendships, and I was being accused of sleeping with boyfriends, and it was like you go back to the fucking 50s, 60s, where you became the fucking town whore, and you're getting accused of everything, sleeping with boyfriends.
Might as well be burned at the stake type feeling.
At that point, and that's very much where it was like, the title is there, why not? You know? But I never acted on it. And when it came back to coming back to Vegas and, you know, to visit, at the point it was for visiting, it it didn't feel like Jeselle. I didn't feel like I was me. I look at pictures from that summer and I'm going, who the fuck was that? That wasn't me. The smile was fake. The authenticity of me wasn't there. And I remember that summer very fucking well. And, you know...
It's before I hit my head. I do remember it very well as well.
And, you know, I got to... I'm not gonna lie, when I sat there in the car with you, going running around with you, I was the most happiest I ever felt at that time. Being with you and my sister. And, you know, I still have some of those photos. But then I look at the photos of, you know, how thin I was, and I'm going, God, I was not mentally okay. I was making sure that I didn't eat, or I was making sure that I didn't, I just didn't drink anything. I literally was starving myself. And I would eat in front of people. I was turning myself into not an basically an anorexic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I did eat, I would go throw it up because I was also ashamed of my body.
Yeah,
and
I remember having a lot of conversations with you about it.
And so, you know, as that summer goes by, I wanted to be home. I wanted to be with you. I wanted to, but, you know, I didn't know the position that you were in wasn't exactly the best. You know,
I was just coming out of making very stupid decisions.
Yeah.
Let me just say it how it is. I was just getting back off of from making stupid decisions.
And you know, and you were living with your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know, I
just moved in there.
And then I got a tattoo, and you were like, why not? The tattoo meant something really deep within me, and it's a warrior. Mm-hmm. Wolves are warriors.
Mm-hmm.
They're survivors.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I found that tattoo of that wolf, and I was like, that resonated so deep within me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sat there, and you took me to go get it, and that lashed out an entire fight, and it made me... People that sat there, it made me feel like I was making the worst decisions of my life, that I was actually ruining my life. They made me feel that I was the absolute piece of shit on the scum of their feet. There were people who were, you know, fighting over it, or, you know, if I went back on it, it truly felt like if I went back, I was going to pay for it one way or another. There was going to be repercussions of it. Whether it was going to be my phone taken away, my whole freedom taken away completely once again, you know, and I was like, I don't want to live like that. I can't live like that because I wanted to die.
Mm-hmm.
I want to not want to live anymore. I don't know how many times I looked at the pond and going, I wish I could drown in that. So finally making the decision to stay in Vegas, it wasn't completely the best decision for me because, I mean, in a way it was.
Well, the decision was taken out of your hand. I'm just going to put that out there. The decision was taken out of your hand. You were under 18, and I was your mother.
But
I seen how dark it was for you, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this.
And
I couldn't handle somebody else making decisions for my kid. It was too much.
When I sat there and, you know, seeing how I was being treated, how I was being talked to, when it came down to me making a decision, because I had a right to the decision too. And, you know, yeah, I was under 18, but I still felt like I had a right to the decision. And when I was being talked to in such a way that I was just disgusted, you know, it felt like everybody wanted to make the decisions for me.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wanted to speak for me. Everybody wanted to tell me how I wanted to feel, because it wasn't the way they wanted me to feel. And I was very much done with that. And as we lived in Vegas that year, I did start seeing happiness again. I did start seeing myself having a healthier life mentally. Now I did start getting wrapped up in smoking weed. I mean, I did in prior years, but not nearly as bad. But that was when I started getting myself into it a little bit deeper. But I was I showed up at class. I never really was one to show up to school high, but I did one day. Smoked a little too much, and and I had some of the best teachers. I discovered that was probably the best school year that I have ever gotten through anything. I discovered things that I never thought I would have passion for. I ended up doing things I never thought I would ever do. And I found a way to put emotion into photography. I found out how to make film, and I released so much. But that's when I started finding myself actually also very sexually active. And that's when I started letting myself drown into it. And yeah, I had a boyfriend, but it very much... I don't know what he was at the time. I don't know if it was just a comfort relationship or what, but then I just found myself drowning into the... And this sounds so horrible to say, and I really can't believe I want to say it. I found myself numbing with sex. Numbing my emotions with sex.
You're not the only one.
I know there's people out there who know that. I know that feeling.
Yeah, you're not the only one. Just be rest assured, you're not the only one.
Raw and authentic. And I never said that out loud.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
And that's where, I mean, that was towards the end of that year is when it started happening. But when we moved to Texas is when I really fell into that. I found a website where you could meet people nearby, and and I am thankful that I never got anything. I'm thankful that I never had gotten pregnant at the time, and I'm very... I probably... I mean, I'm pregnant now, but I feel like I did something to keep myself from getting pregnant after that. Because I wasn't the safest. I know, I can remember the face of almost every guy I slept with at that point. In less than a couple of months, I was slept with 30 guys. It's some of them ranging up to 40 years old.
That's new knowledge to me.
Huh?
That's new knowledge to me.
I know. I very much had never talked about the how much and how
yeah,
the sneaking out. Yeah, you knew I was sneaking out, but I was sneaking out very often.
You had a lot on your fucking plate, dude. And that's where I was like, she's got a lot on her fucking plate. She's not getting in trouble, I didn't know what you were doing, but I always, It
was either smoking pot or sleeping with somebody. It was a quick one-night stand, and then there might have been a couple where it was a couple times, and then, but nothing ever stood still. Like, yeah. I very much...
So you just pick and chose a couple of guys that you could present to me as who you were going out with?
Yeah. Didn't make you spit up. Damn.
No.
I know this is supposed to be serious.
This is real and this is raw and authentic, dude.
And the like we said, this is new information. I've never spoke out, and this is 10 years later.
Well, I ain't gonna be mad at you for it.
Well, no. Why are you gonna be mad at me 10 years later for it? But
even then, I wouldn't. I knew that you were like. Joey had said something to me, and I was just like, she's 18 or almost 18 for 1 year, and she literally runs this entire house. What do you want from her?
And and that was a lot of it.
And that may have not been the best decision, but I handled it the way I handled it.
And I've like, to this day, I feel very stupid on how I went about things, because I was still in a dark hole. Like, I came out a little bit. I was, a little bit mentally better, but then it was, okay, this happened.
Yeah, now there's the...
And then now is you hit your head, and you're having seizures, and you're down, and who else is going to pick up what's going on around the house? It sure wasn't the second oldest in the house. And, he very much was going through his own problems.
Yeah, he was going through his own darkness, too.
And, so it was, who else is going to be able to do it? Because, the man is, Joey's working. How is he going to, he can't. And there was nobody else.
Yeah.
And so I don't see it this way, but in a way it was forced on me. There was no other option. There was nobody else.
Yeah.
And it was very much forced upon me. And
it was forced upon you. Kind of forced upon all of us.
And I, taking on the kids and cleaning and cooking and school. And I remember sitting there at the desk and starting to fall asleep because I was so tired.
Yeah.
Because I was out till 3 o'clock in the morning because I was like, well, don't have time for myself between 6 a.m. and about 10
midnight.
p.m. Yeah, so...
Sometimes midnight, and yeah.
And so
and not only were you taking care of the kids, and you're on top of their school for me, you had to do it,
taking them to school before I went to school, but,
It was full-blown. You had to literally, as though I was not there.
I very much became...
So I will explain that to people. It was as though I had... But on top of that, she had me having 90 seizures a week.
And, skipping school till I can be there to take care of you, because we couldn't leave you by yourself with the youngest because, nobody can watch him, and he wasn't old enough to be in school.
He was 3 years old.
Yeah, and, so when he wasn't, 2 months out of the... 2 months he was in Vegas, and then he comes back for 2 months, and then somebody has to be home with them. On your better days, you would be able to do it, but there was weeks where it was like, no.
Yeah.
There was one day out of maybe 3-4 weeks. So, it was...
It was bad.
It was really bad.
Yeah. It was, and my depression and my shit just went on skyrocket crazy.
And through that time, I'm not gonna lie, is that dark hole, I fucking shoved that shit to the side so hard, I don't know how. I still go back and I'm going, how the hell did I do that? How did I comprehend, and how did I make myself go through that?
Because you're one strong ass bitch. That's why.
Because I go, holy shit, I didn't kill myself.
Yeah. I know.
I was still dealing with all my past trauma. You were still
dealing with all the past trauma, yeah.
And then I was dealing with all that current trauma, and I was like, what the hell? And I go...
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I still try to go fathom it, and I still try to fathom the emotions, and, I will say that through a lot of the bullshit, there was a lot of bullshit that happened. I would be able to look at Joey, and he would know, okay, this is too much right now. And he would take over for a second. Or he would take on a part where I was like, I can't do this too. Yeah. I very much recognized that, and I think that's what helped me get through. And then when there was points where you were starting to get a little bit there, you would recognize where my loneliness was just consuming me.
Yeah.
And you were like, and I would, express it to you. There was a lot of fucking loneliness, and you knew that. And then you brought Andre out. And that fucking lifted so much off of me. You know, he was able to stay there with you, and or you know, yeah, he couldn't take you to the bathroom, but
he was there was yeah,
somebody to watch Junior and make Grandma Joe food while I could go in.
Yeah, and she was taking care of her grandmother. The plate was full.
It was
overloaded, and then some.
4 kids. Because even the second oldest, I had to feed him. And you know.
Yeah, cooking for 12 people.
And trying to come up with new recipes and doing laundry and
making sure that they got their homework done. And I know it was a lot. It was a lot for me to do. Before I hit my head, it was a lot. And I wasn't going to high school trying to graduate and deal with
you at least didn't have to do my laundry.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like I still had.
You had to do my laundry.
Yeah, I had to do your laundry and his laundry. I had to
make his lunches and his.
I had to do everything because nobody else knew how to do anything.
Yeah,
and he had to work. And the last thing, I wanted was him to have to come home and worry about all that too.
Well, he was working, and then he was taking care of his mom.
And then taking you to hospitals and doctors. And so he was taking on, he had that.
He would take care of me while you were taking care of everything else. In the house. Yeah.
And that helped a lot in a lot of areas. I think if I had that one last little bit on me, I probably would have lost my shit.
Yeah.
And, there was times where I did lose it. There was times where I don't know, it just, I'm thankful that I got through it, and I'm, the dark times, and I'll go further deeper into those dark times with you, the types of seizures and the way things lashed out and all that, you know. We'll go deeper into those things and everything, but I like I said, to this day, I still don't know how I got through it. I don't know what kind of light was shined upon me. I don't know where God showed me some kind of path. He did something for me mentally. I'm thankful for it, and I'm proud that I got that through it. But there's still days where I look back and I go, wow.
Yeah.
And or I try to figure out what was really truly going on. Because I don't think I truly uncovered all of it. I don't think I truly have fully, or it was one of those things where I dealt with it as I went with it. But this right here, I will say, I hope somebody can get through it the way I did. I hope it helps somebody to know that what they're going through, they're not doing it alone. Because having that lonely feeling is so fucking hard. And feeling like nobody else in the world can understand you.
Yeah, it is.
And, I wish that there was people who would understand the emotions that I was going through a little bit better when I did try to talk about it. Because I don't think there's people who understood that.
Yeah.
Or validated my emotions. And I think that's where it got even harder. Whereas when my emotions never got validated, or it was always, you're too sensitive, or you're not seeing it right, or this is not, that's not the right way of seeing it, or that you did something to, you gave me attitude, or...
Yeah.
And when it was, I never meant to come off that way, or it wasn't seen on what I was doing. It wasn't seen, because this is how much is on her plate. This is why she's acting this way.
Yeah.
But I will be forever thankful that, like I said, I never have gotten hurt. I never gotten forced into anything. When I did go off into my little tantrum of internet access, thank God, none of that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean it won't happen to somebody else. And I think that's where...
It will, and people are getting more bolder and bolder.
And I think that's where a lot of my story comes into play, is I recognized... I literally was playing with it.
Mm-hmm.
I got into random people's cars after I just talked to them for an hour.
Yeah. You know, that kind of... I see that a lot. I've seen that a lot. Like, I can see the pattern where a lot of people that have been sexually assaulted once, let alone multiple different occasions on, you know, different levels of your life, is that there's a numbness when it comes to sex. And for some reason... we go further into it, I think, trying to maybe find not a numb spot. I'm not quite sure, but we go further. I've noticed that people go further into it and put themselves not only in more sexual places, but or situations, but in dangerous situations. I am absolutely guilty of it. I've seen me do it. I've seen others do it.
I will be 100% real, because I'm sure I'm not the only one out there, but because of these sexual assaults and then the way I spiraled with sexual partners, I found it and found the love of my life. I very much found myself still numb in the sexual manner.
Yeah.
And
I still fight it to this day.
And I battle that really roughly.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you know, it makes me go, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, I'm in love with this person. This person is my life.
Yeah.
And one thing is, smoking pot was the only thing that would get me to be able to...
It brings down those anxieties, those overthinkings, it
would allow me to actually be intrigued into it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times where I feel like I'm just there.
Yeah.
Just there for it. And you know, for just because, and you know, it's just really sad that I know I'm not the only one, and
No.
And you know, I very much beat myself up not too long ago about me being, you know, having to smoke in order to get sexually active with my partner. And, you know, I was like, I shouldn't have to rely on substance to be this way. And, you know, it's really rough. It's really, truly rough, and I'm still trying to battle that.
Yeah.
And that's why I just want to really open myself up to that, because I want somebody to know that they're not alone. I really want, that's my biggest goal in all of this, in releasing my entire story out there, is to let somebody know that they're not alone.
Yeah. Man
or woman.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm proud of you.
Damn y'all.
I have to say, you know, there was a lot that I didn't know, but there was a lot that I did know. You know, in the second half, there were still some things I didn't know, you know. But regardless, you were very open, and like, you know, like we said, we're doing it raw and authentic. So I just want to say I'm proud of you for being that vulnerable.
Thank you. There is another one that I want to go ahead and cut this one off, but a little teaser trailer for another one. I want to talk about the infertility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Problems.
There's so many, yeah.
And how I very much blamed myself along with it, especially after what happened.
But yeah, I can see. After you told me that, I kind of went,
why I beat
okay,
myself
yeah.
up, because I yearned for it so much, because at the time I wasn't ready.
Yeah, but
I very much want to, you know, go into that and speak about the infertility and the health problems and
Please.
everything. Because I know me personally, even on my personal Facebook, I've posted about the PCOS and everything, and I have other women who talk about it.
It's a very common thing that's going on right now, and you know, a lot of women do feel alone. A lot of women beat themselves up, you know.
And that's where
you know, I don't fully understand that situation, and you know, I only know it from my eyes through you.
Exactly.
And watching you go through it. But thank you for sharing. I appreciate you.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
You and whoever else.
Thank you for listening.
All right, y'all.
All right. Till next time.